The glass walls of the executive floor reflected. A city that never slowed down. Welcome a story a day, please. Subscribe channel, thank you. But inside the boardroom, silence pressed heavily against the long mahogany table. Claire Whitmore, CEO of Whitmore Technologies, sat at the head, her posture flawless, her expression unreadable. She was used to control, numbers obeyed her, people followed her, and meetings ended on her terms. Until today. Across from her sat Daniel Reed, a senior systems architect she had personally approved for promotion 3 years ago. Reliable, quiet, brilliant, a single father. According to HR notes, he had declined every after-hours event, every executive retreat. Claire had never asked why, until now. The meeting had already ended when Claire noticed the small pink phone on the table, vibrating softly. A cartoon unicorn sticker clung to its cracked case. Daniel reached for it, his face instantly changing. The sharp edges of professionalism softened into something warmer. Something human. "I'm sorry," he said. "My daughter." Claire raised a hand. "It's fine." Her gaze lingered on the phone as Daniel answered quietly, turning away. "Yes, sweetheart. I'll be there soon. Did you finish your homework?" A pause. "No, Mommy will pick you up." The word hit Claire like a dropped glass. "Mommy." Daniel ended the call and turned back, unaware, until he saw her face. Claire's pen slipped from her fingers. "Excuse me." She said slowly, "Your daughter just called you." "Mommy." Daniel froze. The room felt suddenly too small, the air too thin. He opened his mouth, then closed it again, as if choosing which truth to reveal and which to bury. He exhaled. "She calls me that sometimes." "Sometimes." Claire repeated, disbelief creeping into her voice. "You're her father." "Yes." "Then why?" Claire stopped herself, but the question had already formed. Her eyes searched his face, not as a CEO now, but as a woman whose own past was stitched with unanswered questions. "Why does your daughter call you Mommy?" Daniel's hands clenched together. He looked down at the table, at the faint scratches left by years of other people's ambitions. "Because," he said quietly, "her mother never came back." The words settled between them, heavy and fragile. Claire leaned back slowly, the walls she had built around herself beginning to crack. "I'm listening," she said, her voice softer now. Daniel swallowed. When Lily was 3, her mother left for work one morning and never returned. No note, no call, just gone. His voice trembled, but he didn't stop. For weeks, Lily stood by the door every night, asking when Mommy would come home. I told her the truth, that I didn't know. He looked up at Claire then, eyes raw but steady. One night, she climbed into my arms and said, "If you do everything Mommy did, can you be Mommy too?" Claire's breath caught. "So I became both," Daniel finished, "because she needed me to be." The boardroom was silent again, but this time, Claire Whitmore had ended meetings with harsher truths than Daniel Reed's story. Yet none had ever followed her home. That evening, the city lights blurred through the windshield as her driver asked if she wanted to stop anywhere. She shook her head. "Straight home," she said, though the word home felt strangely hollow. Her penthouse waited, immaculate, silent, untouched by laughter or clutter. Success had furnished every corner, but warmth had never been part of the design. Daniel's words echoed in her mind. "If you do everything Mommy did, can you be Mommy too?" Claire pressed her fingers against her temple. She had built an empire from logic and control, but that sentence refused to be managed. She poured herself a glass of wine she didn't want and stood by the window, staring down at the world she ruled. For years, she had told herself she had chosen this life. No attachments, no distractions, no pain. That was the story she told investors and herself. But the truth lived somewhere deeper. Her phone buzzed. A notification from HR. Daniel Reed, leave request. Submitted, early departure today. Reason, child pickup. Without thinking, Claire approved it. The next morning, she arrived at the office earlier than usual. The executive floor was quiet, the kind of quiet she normally preferred. Yet when she passed Daniel's desk later that day, She slowed. A small crayon drawing was pinned. Beside his monitor, 2 stick figures, holding hands under a lopsided sun. Above them, written in uneven letters, "Me and Mommy." Claire stopped. "She insists I put it there," Daniel said from behind her. She turned, startled. "Your daughter." He nodded, embarrassed but smiling. "She says it reminds her I'll come back." The words struck something fragile inside Claire. "You don't correct her?" Claire asked gently. Daniel shook his head. "Why would I? To her, Mommy means the one who stays." Claire swallowed. Later that afternoon, she found herself watching Daniel through the glass wall of her office. He worked with focus, but there was something else, an undercurrent of patience, of quiet strength, the kind she had never needed to develop because she had never been allowed to fail. Or stay. That night, Claire did something uncharacteristic. She searched for an old number she hadn't dialed in years. Her thumb hovered before pressing call. It rang once, twice, then a voicemail. "This is Evelyn Whitmore. Leave a message." Claire ended the call without speaking. She sat in the dark of her office long after everyone had gone, finally admitting the truth she had buried. Beneath quarterly reports and accolades, she hadn't avoided motherhood because she didn't want it. She had avoided it because she knew exactly what it felt like to wait by a door that never opened. And for the first time in decades, Claire Whitmore wondered whether some people didn't leave because they couldn't love, but because they didn't know how to stay. Claire Whitmore prided herself on never crossing lines. Professional boundaries were clean, predictable, safe. That was why she surprised herself when she found her eyes drifting toward the clock at 5:12 p.m. Waiting. Daniel Reed had left early again. By 6 o'clock, the office was nearly empty. The city outside glowed in twilight, and Claire stood at her window, restless. She told herself it was concern for an employee, nothing more. A CEO had responsibilities, after all. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. Claire Whitmore. "Ms. Whitmore," a woman's voice said, tight with urgency. "This is Oak Ridge Elementary School. We are trying to reach Lily Reed's emergency contacts." Claire's chest tightened. What happened? She fainted during recess. Her father is on his way, but the woman paused. "You're listed as an alternate." Claire's mind raced. "I'm coming." She didn't wait for her driver. She grabbed her coat and ran, through the lobby. Heels abandoned halfway to the parking lot. Traffic blurred as she broke every rule she had ever set for herself. At the school gates, children were leaving in noisy clusters. Claire spotted Daniel instantly, knees on the pavement, clutching Lily against his chest. His forehead pressed to her hair. "She just wouldn't wake up," he said when he saw Claire, voice breaking. "They called me, but thank you for coming." The ambulance arrived moments later. Claire rode with them, holding Lily's small hand while Daniel answered questions he barely heard. Lily stirred once, eyes fluttering open. "Mommy." She whispered. Daniel leaned close. "I'm here, sweetheart." Lily's gaze shifted, landing on Claire. Her fingers tightened weakly around Claire's sleeve. "Mommy's friend." Lily murmured. Claire swallowed hard. "Yes," she said. "I'm Mommy's friend." At the hospital, time lost meaning. Claire handled paperwork without thinking, spoke calmly to doctors, and stayed standing when her legs begged her to sit. She had negotiated billion-dollar deals with less focus. "She's stable," the doctor finally said. "Dehydration and exhaustion. She'll be fine." Daniel sank into a chair, covering his face. Claire stepped outside, her composure finally cracking. Her hand shook as she realized something terrifying. When the call came, she hadn't thought about reputation, or protocol, or risk. She had come because a child needed someone to stay. And somewhere in that choice, Claire Whitmore crossed a line she never intended. To one that led straight into a life she had sworn she would never touch. The hospital corridor smelled of antiseptic and quiet fear. Claire Whitmore stood near the window, arms folded tightly, watching rain streak down the glass. PowerPoint presentations had never made her hand shake. Boardroom confrontations had never made her heart race. But this was different. Lily lay 2 rooms away, fast asleep after the doctors assured them it was only exhaustion and dehydration. Still, the image of her small body collapsing at school replayed endlessly in Claire's mind. She had arrived just minutes after Daniel. Breathless, coat half-buttoned, eyes wild with fear. He had carried Lily into the emergency room like the world depended on it. And maybe it did. Daniel stepped into the corridor, his shoulders sagging now that the crisis had passed. He ran a hand through his hair and finally noticed Claire still standing there. "You didn't have to stay," he said quietly. "I wanted to," Claire replied. They stood in silence for a moment, the kind that wasn't awkward, just heavy with things unsaid. "She kept calling for Mommy," Daniel said, voice rough, even when she was half asleep. Claire closed her eyes briefly. "And you answered," she said. "Of course." She turned to face him fully. "Daniel, do you ever get tired?" He let out a soft, humorless laugh. "Every day." Then, after a pause, "But when she smiles at me like I hung the moon, it's worth it." Claire nodded slowly. "My mother never stayed long enough to be tired." The words surprised them both. Daniel didn't interrupt. "She was brilliant," Claire continued. "Driven. Ambitious. Everyone admired her." Her voice tightened. "But she left. Again and again. Always promising she'd be back." Daniel's eyes softened. "I'm sorry." "I told myself I didn't need anyone," Claire said. "That love was optional. Replaceable." She shook her head. "I was wrong." Sunlight spilled through the hospital room as Lily stirred, her lashes fluttering open. Claire was seated beside the bed, still in yesterday's clothes, her heels tucked neatly beneath the chair like an afterthought. She hadn't left. Not once. Daniel woke with a start, straightening from the uncomfortable couch. "Lily." "Daddy," Lily whispered, smiling weakly. Her eyes shifted to Claire. "You stayed." Claire's throat tightened. "Of course I did." Lily reached out. Claire hesitated only a second before taking her hand. The grip was small, trusting, warm. "Mommy says you don't leave," Lily said softly, as if sharing a secret. "That's why I like you." Daniel froze. Claire felt the word land, not as a title, but as a question. The doctor came and went. Discharge papers were signed. Life resumed its forward motion, but something fundamental had already changed. A week later, Claire stood outside Daniel's modest home, holding a paper bag with soup she had pretended was just a convenience. Lily opened the door herself. "You came back." Lily exclaimed. "Yes," Claire said, smiling. "I said I would." Dinner was simple. Conversation was awkward at first, then easy. Laughter appeared, soft, unplanned. Claire watched Daniel move around the kitchen with practiced care, watched Lily follow him like a shadow, safe in the certainty that he would always turn around. Later, as Lily slept, Claire stood by the window while Daniel spoke quietly behind her. "She doesn't mean the word the way adults do," he said. "To her, Mommy isn't a person. It's a promise." Claire nodded, eyes shining. "The one who stays." "Yes." Claire turned to him then, the city CEO gone, replaced by the woman she had buried long ago. "No one ever stayed for me," she said. "So I learned not to ask." Daniel met her gaze. "You're allowed to ask now." Months passed. Claire began leaving work earlier. She learned how to braid hair, badly at first. She attended school plays, sat on tiny chairs, and felt something inside her heal each time Lily searched the crowd and found her. One evening, as Lily drifted toward sleep, she wrapped her arms around Claire's neck. "You can be Mommy too," she murmured. "If you want." Claire closed her eyes, tears finally falling. "I want to," she whispered. And for the first time in her life, Claire Whitmore didn't build walls around love. She stayed. End of story.